Suicide Squad is the third film in the new DC Cinematic Universe and the last big superhero movie of summer 2016, and after the very mixed reception by its predecessors, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, this movie had plenty of people looking at it as if it was a make-or-break-it type affair. The movie was written and directed by David Ayer, a man who's no stranger to gritty men-on-a-mission films, giving us Fury not so long ago as well as a swath of LA crime movies. For those who aren't already aware, in the comic books, the Suicide Squad are a group of C and D-list supervillains recruited by the American government to serve as covert operatives in exchange for shortened prison sentences and are kept in line with the use of implanted explosives. It's a wicked premise, and in the movie it's pretty much the same. Viola Davis is Amanda Waller, an agent of Argus, a shadowy government organization that's never actually named in the movie but whose logo is everywhere. After the death of Superman in BVS, Waller tries to pressure the government into allowing her to make a team of metahumans to serve the cause of national security, while also promising if things go south, they can always just throw the villains under the bus. Now, Amanda Waller has always been one of my favorite comic characters, and Davis really nails her gray and grayer morality while also maintaining an inhuman coldness that could come off as bland in the hands of a lesser actor. She's so good, I almost forgive the fact that 90% of her dialogue is exposition. The first 20 minutes or so of the movie is devoted to meeting the team, and in an interesting or odd choice depending on your taste, these scenes play out like mini music videos, kind of like Suicide Squad is trying to be its own YouTube tribute video. Some of these work pretty well, others are kind of on the nose. FYI, when we first meet Waller, Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones is playing. Recruited first is Deadshot, Floyd Lawton, played by Will Smith, an assassin with a heart of gold who only wants to provide a better life for his daughter. You know, over the last couple years, what with chasing Oscar gold unsuccessfully or starring in nepotism projects, it would be pretty easy for people out there to forget what a damn fine movie star Smith is when he brings his A game. And by God, you know, this performance might very well be the second coming of Big Willie style. You really do get the feeling that he's elevating and running with the material that he's been giving here, and he's pretty damn charming. Same goes for Margot Robbie as the movie's female lead, Harley Quinn, gal pal of the famous Joker and beloved fan favorite character, making her first ever movie debut here. And while I don't think she could ever hold a candle to the definitive Harley Quinn, Arlene Sorkin, of whom the character is based on in case you were wondering, she did apply herself to the role pretty well, and it's clear that she's having a blast, and that sort of joy is infectious. She did slip in and out of that accent of hers a few too many times for my taste, but when she was on, she was on. It's clear she's already pegged to be the breakout star of this movie, and the camera sure did love her in those short shorts, so it's clear they know where the real moneymaker of the Suicide Squad was. They never do reasonably explain what she brings or offers to the whole operation. FYI, in the comics it was her skills as a psychologist, but those really don't get brought up outside her origin flashbacks that are peppered throughout the movie. I also didn't exactly buy her turn at the end of the movie, ooh, the Suicide Squad is my family, I love them now, even though I'll totally cut you all loose for Joker at a moment's notice. But by far the biggest surprise in the casting department was actually Jay Hernandez as El Diablo, a real nothing of a character in the comics. Here though, it's clear Ayer felt a connection to him, perhaps the whole gangbanger element appealing to his own artistic sensibilities, but he ends up having maybe the best arc out of anyone in the movie, a man with powers that make him a danger to himself and others, and who after a tragedy swears an oath of non-violence. Damn, that's pretty interesting territory for a summer blockbuster, and they do indeed explore it. It really is these four key performances that the entirety of the Suicide Squad production rests on. As far as everyone else in the movie goes, well, you know, they showed up, didn't they? Yeah, for a team movie, one of the Suicide Squad's greatest weaknesses and maybe its greatest sin is the fact that it seems to most of the time not actually be interested in being a team story. The script constantly plays favorites. Captain Boomerang is the class clown, never really growing or evolving beyond that. Killer Croc is big and hit stuff, but maybe only has a handful of lines in the whole movie. Katana has even less, and she shows up late in the movie, and she only ever speaks Japanese, despite the fact that in the comics she can totally speak English. Katana is also representative of another weird thing about Suicide Squad. Her deal, in case you didn't know, is that she has a mystical sword that also houses the soul of her dead husband. This remains intact in the movie, which is kinda strange when you stop and consider how hard the last two DC movies tried to be taken super seriously with the most grounded Batman and Superman possible. Now here in Suicide Squad, they're just like, hey, magic totally exists, everyone. and nobody freaks out over this. It's like that one Chappelle Show sketch where they're like, yes, magic is real, the government has known for years, in fact the Kennedy assassination was with a magic bullet. And while we're on the subject of magic, that brings me to another flaw the movie has, and that is with the villain, Enchantress. Wait, wasn't she supposed to be a part of the team, you're all probably saying? Yes, she is. She gets talked up as a member of the team, but then as soon as Waller actually gets the ball rolling on it, she goes rogue and enlists the help of her brother Incubus, who never actually gets called that in the movie, by the way, but that's who he is. In the comics, he was just kind of a guy who was evil, but here they go for something completely different. He's a giant, walking, ugly CGI character. In fact, I can't even show you how bad and Scorpion King-esque this guy looks because there's no actual pictures of him online yet, almost like they knew and tried to meet it at the pass. Why did Enchantress wait so long to go bad? What was her ultimate goal? I don't know, and the movie never stops to explain it. All I know for certain is that this means the Suicide Squad must, you guessed it, stop an evil light shooting up in the sky like every damn superhero movie ever. Don't get me wrong, I liked the J-horror-esque look of humanoid Enchantress, but when she gives her big evil speech near the tail end of the movie, for some reason she's popping and locking like a soccer mom on meth. It's really embarrassing, and it took me a lot to choke down a laugh in the theater. The movie attempts to add some extra stakes to things by having the Enchantress's human host June Moon also be the girlfriend of Rick Flag, the squad's white meat all-American handler, but as we're never told how or why the two fell in love, it all falls super flat. Then we have the Joker in the room that still needs addressing. Joker truly is to this movie what Wonder Woman was to Batman v Superman, by which I mean I am certain that there are a bunch of drafts out there of this movie without him in it, or maybe just relegated to flashbacks. Also, you could cut his maybe 5 minutes of screen time out of the movie and it wouldn't change anything. He also only really interacts with Harley for the entire movie's runtime, which to me is just a big squandered opportunity. But how is his performance, you're probably asking? Well, think of it this way. Think of Insane Clown Posse meets Brian Azzarello's Joker. You know, the comic that stripped all the super operatics out of the world's most famous supervillain and gave us a guy who's crazy, but in that down-to-earth, real-world crazy sort of way. If that sounds compelling to you, then you should probably love it. If not, then not. Honestly, for me, he's in so little of the movie, it's hard for me to make a full call on him. I will say they do overdo it in editing for his scenes, adding a ton of unnecessary cuts and filters to, you know, simulate insanity. You know, they didn't need fancy editing tricks for Hamill. Ledger didn't need editing tricks. Nicholson sure didn't need editing tricks, so why does this guy need editing tricks? Speaking of edit, and a lot was made about the reshoots that Suicide Squad did before the release, and judging by a few cuts here and there, I can't help but wonder if this version of the movie that we're seeing now in theaters was labeled the fun cut, by which I mean there's a lot of piffy reaction shots and snarky one-liners that feel like they were probably added in post. Same goes for a major character making a big deal about leaving only to return in the next shot as if nothing happened, or after a big battle everyone being filthy and covered in dust except for one person. Which, hey, if this is the case, I'm not complaining. Not every joke hits, but for once I'm happy a DC movie wants me to enjoy it instead of take it seriously, and I did have a lot of fun. But more importantly than that, I actually cared about the fate of most of these characters. The movie is called Suicide Squad after all, and unlike Batman or Superman, I knew anyone could die here at any moment. In summation, Suicide Squad, while far from perfect, is easily my favorite DC movie of this new shared universe rollout. The story and the villains sadly let down what were otherwise some pretty enjoyable pieces of character work. There's plenty of action to be had for all you summer adrenaline junkies out there, even if I felt a lot of it was shot too close together and at night, making it hard to follow. The soundtrack was filled with a lot of songs I liked, even if there were probably a few moments when they should have just kind of let the score take over. But in the end, I liked what I got for the most part. Unlike Batman v Superman, which I never wanted to see again after it was done, I actually do want to revisit Suicide Squad in the future, and I think I will. It didn't change my life, and I wouldn't say you have to rush out to see it or anything, but I think a lot of people are gonna have a good time with this one. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching my newest video. I hope you enjoyed it, and while you're here, why not check out another video I have on offer, or maybe if you're feeling in a supportive mood, you want to like or subscribe. And if you want to support the creation of more videos just like this one, then please by all means check out the Cape Joel Patreon. A little bit goes a very long way, and I will see you all next time.